Explain that one to me, please. So they said they're going to do away with white liturgy, right? They're going to only do black songs, black hymns, uplift black voices, all this sort of thing, right? This is the type of stuff that we're up against, where it's not just, but it's pervading the church. Okay? So that's what we're up against. Now, when it comes to the school districts, we see what's going on in our schools, what our kids are being subjected to. I'm kind of old, okay? I'm 38 years old. So, old to me, okay? Goodness gracious. But I remember when I was in school, I never had to deal with any of this type of stuff. I'd never seen this. And now I'm going to these college campuses and to these high schools, and I'm witnessing all this type of foolishness that's going on. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know what's happening. I mean, it seems so cut and dry. It seems so easy to point out, but it's one of those things we have to know a little bit about it to be able to combat it. Amen. Okay, so let's talk about CRT, critical race theory. It's one of those things, it's pitting citizen against citizen, race against race, people against people. And this is what they want to do because they want to divide the United States of America. And the way you do it is through tribalism, okay? Tribalism is one of the easiest ways to divide the United States of America. So you want people putting them in these little groups, but you also want to put them against different races, right? And that's what CRT does. It puts white people against everyone else. That's the whole point, right? So when we're looking at CRT, we have to identify what's going on here, because at the very top, I mean, CRT is bad, don't get me wrong, but it hinges on one particular thing, okay? And we're gonna get into that. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the pillars of CRT. All right, there's four main pillars of CRT. One is that racism is normative, right? It's normative, it's everywhere, it's in everything. Okay, so if we're talking about racism in everywhere and everything, what are we talking about here? It starts with the S. Systemic racism, exactly. So that's like the mothership, right? How many of y'all seen the movie Independence Day?
Yeah.
Okay, so systemic racism is the mothership, okay? And the ship that deploys from that mothership is CRT. And the little fighter jets are the other pillars of CRT, okay? So the first main pillar is systemic racism, okay? Racism is normative. The second pillar is convergence theory, okay? White people are incapable of righteous actions in the area of racism unless it converges with the interests of CRT proponents, okay? So you see this a lot when it comes to the LGBTQ community. They go out there and they look at you in the eye and they say, you need to be a what? An ally. Exactly. So the second pillar is allyship. Okay? Now the third pillar, this is where it gets kind of wonky. The rejection of enlightenment thinking, the rejection of objective truth. Oh, I'm just living my truth. I'm just doing me. It's my truth. You can have your truth. I'm gonna have my truth. What are we talking about? Relativism. Yes, indeed. Relativism. That's exactly it. The third pillar is relativism. And then we have the fourth pillar, which is the promotion of the idea that all knowledge is socially constructed. It kind of piggybacks off of the third one, the third pillar. So you always hear people say, oh, we need to uplift black voices. I know you've heard that. We need to uplift black. White people, you need to be quiet and you need to uplift black voices. This is what the Church of Chicago said. We need to uplift black voices, okay? And that's called storytelling, okay? Because and it's really sad because we're seeing the advent of storytelling. You be quiet and you listen to my truth, because my truth is now objective, okay? So basically, it works like this. Storytelling works like this. I come into this church and I extend my hand, right? Now, you don't acknowledge me, okay? you're a bad person. So because you didn't acknowledge me, in my mind, he's a racist. Okay? And that's it. And as a matter of fact, because he's a part of this church, you all are racist. Okay? And you can't say anything about it because you're trying to uplift my voice. So now my prevailing narrative, based on nothing but conjecture, is that you all are racists and you can't say anything about it, or else you are now a double racist because you're not uplifting my voice. See, it's a trap and it's disgusting. And we have to be able to knock this down and understand, we have to understand what it is first so we can be able to knock it down. Okay? Now, when it comes to CRT, oh, there's a remedy to CRT. Now, you've heard about this remedy time and time again. 3 things. What are they? What are they? No. This is when it comes to the left. This is when it comes to the left. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Don't even get me started on reparations. Don't do it. Don't pull the string on me. I tell you, I'll go for hours on that. Goodness gracious. But yes, diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? That'll solve all the problems when it comes to systemic racism, when it comes to CRT. The implementation of CRT, right? Now the solution is diversity, equity, inclusion. So let's define them, okay? Diversity, the practice or quality of including or involving people from a range of different social and ethnic backgrounds and of different genders, sexual orientations, etc. Right? Now this kind of goes hand in hand. Diversity goes hand in hand with inclusion. Okay? So inclusion, the definition of that is the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized, such as those who have physical or mental disabilities and members of other minority groups. So to sum all that up, it's a necessary change, specifically not based on merit, okay? Unnecessary change, 2 parts to this. The unnecessary change and it's specifically not based on merit. Now, what kind of thing happened in 2020 where we had an unnecessary change not based on merit?
Vaccinations.
I told you don't get me started now. But no, it's not vaccination. We're talking about diversity hire Kamala Harris. Okay? That's an unnecessary change that's not based on merit. When Joe Biden took off, he said, when he started running for office, he said, I'm purposely going to have as a running mate a woman of color. That's what he said. Not based on merit. That's based on identity politics. So that's what we're seeing. Ketanji Jackson. Exactly. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Jackson. That's the other example. That's the other example of a diversity hire, of unnecessary change, not based on merit. Right? Yep. We saw that happen. We see this happening in grand fashion on a consistent basis. Okay? Now, what other situation where there's an unnecessary change not based on merit? And it has to do with Disney. Very recent. The Little
Demon.
Aha.
Yep.
She's a black girl now.
Little Demon.
Unnecessary change.
Little Demon. They made it
not based on merit. It's not that she's a black girl, so now she enhanced the movie, right? There's no enhancement of the movie. It's not that she was a better actress or better for the plot. It's just unnecessary change not based on merit, diversity and inclusion. All right, that's what that's all about. And then you have equity. The term equity refers to fairness and justice and is distinguished from equality, whereas equality means providing the same to all. Equity means recognizing that we do not all start from the same place and must acknowledge and make adjustments for imbalances. So when it comes to equity, it's, to sum it all up, it's preferred outcomes for preferred people. That's what that is. That's all equity is. Preferred outcomes for preferred people. It'll be like us running a race. And we're both on the blocks. That's equality. Based on my merit, based on my ability, I'm not gonna race you. When it comes to equity, I get 10 spaces ahead. Now, if you beat me, that's because simply you're racist. That's how it works. So, what we have to do when it comes to equity, because equity is equal opportunity, equal outcome, okay? But when it comes to equal outcome, it always means the minority has to win. So, even though you may beat me, I still win. That's the way it works. That's equity. That's equity in a nutshell. So we're looking at all this. This is not fair, and this is not justice. And I can go on a whole new tangent of social justice, but we only have limited time. But again, it all boils down to systemic racism, okay? So if we, just like Independence Day, if we destroy the mothership of systemic racism, the myth of systemic racism, then there is no more CRT.